Are you ready now?
Sure.
All right, what's our intro?
Let's get ready.
Okay, give me that intro. Welcome to Faith-Filled Nerds, where two happily married nerds explain Christian symbolism, iconography, and theology in various fandoms.
Our goal is to pit them against the source and see how accurate or inaccurate they are.
I'm Jean-Marc.
And I'm Michelle. And we're here to explore Guillermo del Toro's 2004 movie, Hellboy.
Yeah, we now have to...
Guillermo.
Yeah.
It's a Spanish name.
Yeah.
He is such an amazing director, by the way.
Yeah, we have to now preface. We have to distinguish, Hellboy, 2004 Hellboy.
You have to bleep out Hellboy.
Why?
I don't know. Some people, because it has the word hell in it.
Well, that would be really hard.
It's Heckboy.
Heckboy, okay.
It's off-brand Hellboy. It's Heckboy.
So we're
Gee golly.
We watched the 2004 version of Hellboy.
Should have watched the 2019 version and compared them.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm
gonna try and see it because maybe it's a hidden gem. Maybe it slid under the radar. I heard some really bad things.
I did not hear good things.
So
about it.
I want to point out that Hellboy, when this movie came out, stirred up people. They were not happy. It had the word hell. The guy is red. He's somehow a demon. Everybody was flipping out. It's a comic book character.
Yeah.
And the whole point of his character is not being what he's destined to be.
Or not being what he looks on the outside.
Yeah. He's perfectly casted in this movie.
Oh, yeah,
Ron Perlman plays him, and it's just like Ron Perlman is Hellboy, and Hellboy is Ron Perlman.
I think that's the new one's problem.
But they say that actor, I would look at his face and I was like, okay, I can see it. It's not Ron Perlman, but that's fine. No, I hear there's other problems.
Oh, yeah.
Ron Perlman pretty much was the budget of. They paid so much of the movie's budget just to have Ron Perlman.
I will say this, it was nice to see some practical effects.
Oh yeah, well Del Toro loves practical effects. And all of his movies have practical effects. The Shape of Water.
Yeah.
Practical effects. Pan's Labyrinth, practical effects.
Yeah. Though I will say this, there were certain action scenes that they wanted to do with the little demon dog thing that they couldn't do with practical effects, and
you can definitely tell there was a guy in the suit.
Well,
a few times
there's a guy in the suit, but you can also tell when it switches from practical effects to CG.
Yeah, the CG held up okay.
It did
because they used it so sparingly. They really tried not to use it too much.
Yeah, I think
there's literally a scene where Ron Perlman's running, and you totally know there's strings on him the way he was running.
Oh,
it was pretty bad.
Oh, yeah.
This movie's really good, though.
It is really good.
It's actually really good. I like the second one more, but it's really good.
So let's go over Hellboy. It starts off with Nazis.
It's we're doing another Nazis this time. Oh, and Catholics too, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Because I'll talk about Hellboy's comic lore after.
Okay. So, starts off with Nazis, like you do. And they are doing some sort of ritual, because these aren't normal.
These are,
these are supernatural.
If you listen to the last episode, these are probably, the Cthulhu Society related.
Even though...
They talked about it.
Yeah, even though we learned that by the time the Nazis got onto the scene, the Cthulhu Society was pretty much...
They didn't exist anymore. They disbanded. They had groups still, but they disbanded.
So
here in this universe, because you just consider an alternate universe.
Yeah,
there still existed. Hitler joined it. He had the spear of
destiny.
The spear of destiny,
which
technically it says if you have the spear of destiny, you cannot lose a battle, but if you lose a spear, you die.
Yeah.
This it said.
That is
you
power
were invincible.
Yeah, invincible.
Anyway, so Hellboy. So they're doing this ritual, and you're introduced to characters without knowing their names. Really, you're introduced to this squad of characters. You think about it, they had some unique-looking soldiers that we didn't get to know.
Yeah,
because they actually in the comics, these guys actually had.
Oh, more. The dudes with the
No, the U.S. soldiers.
Oh.
Like, that was, like, Hellboy's family growing up.
So
the doctor, and he's, like,
Dr.
supernatural...
Professor... No, he's a Professor Broom.
Broom, which is his nickname. It's like Thurbottom or something like his real name. I was looking at the comics. He's like, oh, we gotta stop them doing this. Like, he's talking about, like, it's on ley lines, and he, like, apparently, he's like, he knows all this different mysticism and mythical stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, he also is a practicing Catholic, so he has, like, the
rosary.
I keep trying to call them prayer beads, but that is not what they're called. They're called a rosary.
Yep.
I know this.
Actually, I think it was a guy I work with pointed out something that I didn't know about rosaries.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you'll see people wearing rosaries as necklaces. As a Catholic, you're not supposed to do that.
It's around the wrist?
Yeah, they're not necklaces.
Okay.
You hold them in your hand when you're praying and stuff. But yeah, you're not supposed to wear them as a necklace, at least according to him. So I don't know.
So they're praying. No, they're praying. Because I'm talking about rosaries.
Yeah.
They get there and it's pouring rain, and there's this contraption with a spinning.
It's a science machine.
Yeah, it's definitely a science machine. They definitely did not have that during World War II in real life. Probably.
Oh, who knows?
Anyway, so this machine's on. There's this guy, and he has a beard, and you're like, who is that? Who could it be? Oh, it's Rasputin.
Yeah. So here's my thing. So Rasputin, he was Russian.
He's a Russian Orthodox
priest.
So
why is he helping the Nazis?
Well, because he wants to open the door.
I suppose, yeah.
Well, so this is, an alternate reality.
Right.
So maybe in this reality, Russia worked with.
Sure.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Anyway, and Rasputin in this isn't actually, if we went from the comic book stuff, he's been around a while. He's not just he just didn't happen to charismatically end up advising the Romanovs and tending to the youngest son. That's what he was there to do, healing mysticism, because the youngest son had the bleeding disorder. He was very weak, the only son. I just read this and I can't remember the name of it. That's pretty much how he kind of got in there.
Oh, okay.
So Rasputin's this Rasputin's ripped.
Oh yeah,
this is ripped.
This is muscle Rasputin.
Like, you see pictures of Rasputin, he's kind of a scrawny guy with a really scraggly beard. But this guy, he's gonna fight ya. Like, he's tough looking. So they put on he puts on this gauntlet. It's mechanical.
First he has a little scene with his lady love.
Nazi lover.
His Nazi lover.
Yeah, this is beautiful blonde Nazi lady, because they're always beautiful blonde Nazi ladies.
Well, I mean...
And he's like, he leans down and he puts his hand to her head and goes, I give you the gift of everlasting life. And then, like, he kisses her forehead. And I'm like, apparently he has that power.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Because it's true, she doesn't die. Like, you see her later on, years later, the same.
It's a clever way for the movie people to kind of hand wave the fact that the same actress is supposed to be playing the same character. How, you know, all these years later.
It's like in the 90s, early 2000s, so 50, 60 years later.
Because the actor they got to play Broom, I don't know if they aged him. I don't know did he age him or de-age him for...
No, it's just two different actors.
Or they looked really, really
similar. They did a really good casting job. No, that's just two different actors.
Hot dang, yeah, that is...
I'm 99% sure it's two different actors.
Well done.
So he does that. There's also this guy who has these cool swords on sticks that he can spin around. And he's mechanic-y a little bit. You can't see his face. He's got some problems later on. You learn that he has some issues that he has to work through. Anyway, so he's a Nazi too. Or maybe he's not... I want to consider these two Nazis. They are subordinates to Rasputin, who's working with the Nazis.
Well,
honestly, those three characters, I would watch, like, how they got to that point. It could be very interesting.
But both of Rasputin's cronies, they were both wearing SS uniforms.
Yeah, but maybe because they had to? I mean, I think she might have been.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think he cared. The other guy cared. He just liked to kill things.
Yeah.
He was a masochist and a sadist. So
now he puts on this big, like...
metal
gauntlet thing that looks like some steampunk cosplayer just got really over enthusiastic, and the machine starts to spin, and
it was a cool scene.
There's a cool scene
it opens a portal,
Yep.
and a light gets sucked through, and it floats out into space.
And I remember
it's
watching...
It's not space, remember. It's another reality.
Right.
It just looks like space.
I remember that scene when I first saw that movie.
I saw it in theaters. Did you see it in theaters?
No, maybe. But
We
I
didn't
remember
know each other then. So.
But I remember seeing that scene, and that scene kind of freaked me out because it's just how vast this space that he was
space.
in. Yeah, and then you see the light go across this big structure, and
it's like an ice crystal.
Well,
with things inside
it's actually according to the wiki.
Yeah, because there's a whole lore
Yeah.
for just this universe. This universe is not the comic universe. It's Del Toro's personal Hellboy universe that he got permission. The creators of Hellboy, which is Mike Mignola, who wrote Hellboy for Dark Horse Comics, loved what he was doing with Hellboy.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's really cool how like two different creators could come together like that.
But those crystal structures, that's crystallized gold.
How do we know that?
That we don't. It's in the wiki.
How does the wiki know that? Sources. It's me hitting my hand.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what the wiki said.
Anyway,
that it
so they're like, we gotta get that portal closed, and so the fight ensues.
Yep.
And guy with knives dies.
Guy with knives. Okay, that's his name now.
He has a name, but it doesn't matter. Creepy guy with knives because he moves robotically.
Yeah.
Dies. Rasputin gets sucked into the portal in a pretty gruesome
yeah,
death.
it's
because the portal's really
rough.
small, so it just kind of like bends him to fit through.
Cronin. We're just gonna call it. Well, we'll call. You know what?
Carl. His name was Carl.
His name
Knife guy Carl.
His name
Knife guy Carl dies.
Yeah.
Elsa gets away. We don't know what happens. She kind of runs off. She sees Rasputin go, and then she runs away with the book that will tell. Because he handed her a book, right? He's like, if something happens to me, this will show you how to find me again. Because, at least they were covering up the plot holes, just so we knew. It still took them 60 years to find them again.
Right.
But, anyway, so that happens. They close the portal. Rasputin's dead. All the Nazis are dead.
And then Broom's like, okay, the portal was open for
too long.
Something may have come through. And so they search around, and it's Broom that finds a strange red creature. And they think it's an ape.
But with a giant hand.
But yeah, a giant hand. And apparently this red ape loves Baby Ruths.
I mean, I like Baby Ruths. They're pretty good.
So, there's Baby Ruth's that's kind of his product placement.
Yeah, but it's pretty cute though.
Yeah.
So they adopt this baby. The whole unit kind of likes him, and then they name him they give him a name that night, which is Hellboy, because he's demon-like, he's not a demon.
Right.
So they named him Hellboy.
Right.
He's Hell and Boy. And then there's this intro that comes across the scene. And it doesn't hold up too well.
No.
The CG doesn't. But that's okay. And then,
it's like 6 steps away from reboot.
The interesting thing, the difference between Hellboy in the movie and Hellboy in the comics. Hellboy in the movie is hiding from society, right?
Yeah.
In the comics, he never hides. He works with the policemen. He works with he's an honorary human because of the work he does with the BPRD, which is not a government-funded. It is a private institution that works with the government to hunt down things that go boom in the night.
Right.
So, in the movie, Hellboy wants to be part of humanity, but he has to hide from humanity, and it's a big sticking point in the second movie, even more so. So, we're introduced to our surrogate character.
Oh, yeah, the John Myers.
John.
Because
he is bland. He's okay. He's not the worst surrogate character, out there, but that's what he is. He is our introduction to this world. We are riding with him through we don't really leave him once the movie starts with him. We don't leave him. He is our character.
There's a few times we cut away.
We follow Hellboy, but Hellboy has times following him.
Yeah.
So
we also cut away to, the other things.
This is how insignificant John's character is. Mm-hmm. They literally write him out of the second movie.
Oh, yeah.
In the first 4 sentences. He is gone.
It makes no difference.
He doesn't, all he does at the end of the movie is like, you can do it! Don't make the wrong choice! Like, that's his job. He was hired by Professor Broom to replace him. He's supposed to be the liaison between Hellboy and the PPRD.
And the FBI.
The FBI to basically play peacekeeper. Because there's tension. Because Hellboy keeps running off. And then they have to try and cover it up.
So we meet him.
We meet Abe. Abe.
Abe Sapien. He is an interesting character.
I love Abe Sapien. He's a lot different in the comics, which is okay. Abe Sapien is played by a specific actor who Del Toro loves putting in prosthetics. And so I believe he was also the fish man in The Shape of Water.
Well, we do know that he was in Pan's Labyrinth.
There's a theory that the fish man in Shape of Water is the Abe Sapien's father.
Oh.
They're very similar, but it's just kind of a Del Toro spiritual movie more than anything.
Yeah.
Anyways, you meet Abe, who's a fish man, and Abe's great. He's second movie, it's his movie basically, so Abe's great. Hellboy's great. We meet the director. Is that what he is?
Oh yeah, played by the guy from freaking Arrested Development.
He's that guy is I hate monsters. They all should just stay locked up. Yeah. You're all terrible. What happens when you're all gone? You'll be the only one left. I'm the worst. That's his character.
Yeah.
We will get to religious aspects, but we're just summarizing this movie for you.
So what happened? So John meets Hellboy, and a couple minutes into it, alarms start going off. Yep, and they got to go to work. Nothing like a new job and hitting the ground running.
Did they ever say if Clay lived or not?
Nope. I know. Anyways, so
Hellboy has this bodyguard, helper guy that's I really don't understand why he's not picked to be Hellboy's liaison.
Yeah.
His name's Clay, and they have really good chemistry. Him and Hellboy, they're definitely good friends. And he's a big guy, and he's gotten hair implants, and it's a running joke. And so they go to the museum, and
stuff has happened.
Yeah. Here, this is you did research on this guy.
So they go to the museum. There is a statue of a saint that
remember this happened. That's already happened.
Right, but they go there, and the first thing that they are alerted that something's gone wrong is there's a particular statue. It was hollow, and they think that something may have been stored there. Mm-hmm. This is confirmed by Abe, who's there's a critter in that next room.
Oh yeah, Abe has special hands that let him see objects, he can see what the objects have been around from the past, the present, and sometimes the future.
Yeah.
He has prophetic.
We got there.
Hands.
Yep.
He just kind of slathers them on things. It just kind of puts them on things. If you can't, it's just really great audio of me smacking my husband in the face with my hand.
So Hellboy goes in there and he's gonna fight this thing. And it's eaten at least 3 of the guards already.
7. He ate 7 guards.
Oh, he's already eaten 7?
Yeah, he ate 7 guards, belts and all.
Oh yeah, because he's gonna need some serious fiber to move that. And the thing. We see the first monster fight in the movie.
It's an okay design, that monster.
Yeah, it's
not my favorite.
It's like a weird dog with hair tentacles.
Because Del Toro's really good at monster designs, really good at monster designs. So I feel like he was held back a little bit by maybe the original set and money amount he had. Because I feel like his monster design would have been a little more extreme. Yeah. It was very much a guy in a suit who had to have hand extenders.
Yeah.
That was that kind of thing where he's arched over and then they walk like that. You can't see me, so I need to stop doing the hand symbols.
Yeah, and like I said...
it's not bad. It's
the fact that they use practical effects with
the practical effects are great.
I think they're admirable.
Great. It's just not my favorite monster design.
Well, but anyways, this particular, as we find out from Abe, who's also acts as our lore, our exposition dump.
He does read 4 books a day.
Yeah, that this is Samael. Hound of Resurrection, which we find out
he's a hellhound.
Yeah, and
he's a water-based.
Yeah. So it's Samael, son of Nergal, Hound of Resurrection. Of course, they have to have all these names here. And of course, these name drops actually come from ancient cultures. Nergal was actually a Mesopotamian deity worship in Samaria, Akkad, and Babylon.
Mesopotamian? Does it just cover an area?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Large area there. He was...
It's a coast, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. He was your basic god of the underworld. Also, though, depending on the time frame, he was also associated with the sun, but only a specific point of the sun's arc in the sky. He was associated with the
humans come up with
noonday sun. Was mentioned in the Bible in 2 Kings 17
not
verse
Samuel
30.
Samael.
Yeah. Well, this is Nergal. We're still in Nergal.
Oh, we're still in Nergal.
Nergal.
The people of Babylon made Succoth-Benoth. Those from Cutha made Nergal, and those from Hamath made Ashima. What are they talking about?
They're basically talking about these different people that are making these idols. Yeah. So, this is just basically that verse was talking about these different people that are making these idols and stuff. Samael, on the other hand... Did you find
anything else about that? So they worshipped. That's what they worshipped.
They worshipped Nergal.
It's kind of a weird underworld.
Yeah.
What does the underworld mean in their culture? Did you find that out at all?
Like I said, it was, he was associated with the noonday. He was very much, the one that would, sort of the, basic, underworld, so he'd sort people. He was also responsible for punishing people that deserved punishment, I guess, in the afterlife.
Okay.
It was associated with the noonday sun because that was the hottest, or as they saw it, was the hottest part of the day, so it was that punishing. Samael, on the other hand, had nothing to do with Nergal, because I wanted to see if that was...
They just threw some ancient words together and made up their own thing, which is very Hellboy.
Yeah. The Samael thing, the reason why I wanted to look that up is because I've heard that in other media that uses Christian themes. Apparently
is it an angel or a demon or something?
Oh, we'll get there. It apparently means venom of God or poison of God.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of the writings that you find about this particular character are in the Talmud, which are an extra biblical. So you have the Tanakh, which is what Christians call the Old Testament.
Okay.
And actually, the Tanakh,
that's different than the Torah?
Yeah, well, that's part of it. So the Tanakh is an acronym.
Okay.
It means the Torah, which means law. So TA for Torah. Then NA for Navahim, and I'm probably butchering those words. And then Kavohim. So you have the law, the Torah, you have the other part, which is the prophets, and then the histories. That's how they organized their scriptures.
Okay.
Okay. So the Talmud is a separate book.
What's Tanakh?
No, the Talmud.
Okay.
We're talking about the Talmud.
Okay.
The Talmud was a separate book that was used to kind of fill in some of the questions that a lot of the Hebrews had with the scriptures.
Okay.
It's where we get a lot of the when Jesus is butting up against the Pharisees about what constitutes work. All of the actual bylaws and stuff about what constitutes work on the Sabbath are in the Talmud.
Okay.
And other books. There's a whole library of Jewish law that you could go through. Anyways, he's mentioned in the Talmud. Depending on which of those Talmuds there is, because there is a Jerusalem Talmud called, I can't remember exactly what it's called. And then there's a Babylonian one.
It says Talmudic in your thing.
The Talmudic writings.
Just clarifying.
Yeah. So you have the Jerusalem version and the Babylon version. You know, the one that was written, the Talmud writings that were in Jerusalem, Babylon. You get that. So in in some of them, he was one of the named archangels that fell with the Satan.
Okay.
In the Second Temple period. This is the point in time where the Hebrews have returned to Jerusalem and rebuilt the temple. The writings of that credit Samael with being the one who planted the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because he did this, he was banished by God, and so he took revenge by tempting Adam and Eve. Keep in mind, these writings happened after
I'm making a really weird face. That's why he's saying this.
After Israel had been taken and lived in Babylon. Because,
so they got ideas.
Because he's also associated with Lilith, and in some writings, he is credited with being the husband of Lilith.
You ever heard my rant on Lilith?
Yeah.
Have we done my rant on Lilith?
We haven't done the full one yet.
Okay, we'll save it. I have a rant about the way modern society feels about Lilith and how they are wrong! Okay, sorry.
But, so basically he was a demon. In the first, in Enoch chapter 1, he's mentioned because he was one of the 7 Grigori. Mm-hmm. Remember we talked about that in the Blue Exorcist episode. Mm-hmm. The Grigori were the Watchers who...
From Magic the Gathering, yeah.
No. The Grigori were... They were the Watchers. They were these 7 angels that were sent to Earth to watch over humanity. Yeah. And instead of watching over humanity...
They were they're like, human women are hot.
Yeah.
Man, those Earth women are hot. That's what they were like.
So
I'm just like picturing that angel just like, I'm gonna plant this tree, and then God's just like, get out.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think God knows what's in his garden. I feel like that was something he put there. But but we're gonna talk about free will and stuff anyway. So.
Yeah. This, like I said, these books, a lot of these, what we call extra biblical books. The thing about them is they're not bad. They're just not scripture.
Yeah.
The difference being that scripture are the books and the writings especially when we're talking about the Hebrew people, they believe that these works were God inspired, or as it's literally saying that the Roha, which is the breath of God, breathed these words into them.
And I think it's also important to remember how scripture was made.
Yes.
Like when people ask like, oh, but how do you know it's just written by guys, but humans, and their thought. I think one of the important things to remember about the least of scripture when they went to make the Bible, and I can talk about like some things, is that at least when it comes to the Old Testament, they had this, there was a special way they wrote this. And like we actually had to take a class on this when we did Bible quizzing.
Uh-huh.
And they made us having to write out verses like perfectly.
Yep.
And we only got to make we were only allowed 3 mistakes before we had to throw the whole chapter away.
Yep.
The whole chapter.
You were
allowed 3 mistakes. And they didn't have chapters, by the way. That's not how it was written. But that's just what we got. Like if we made 3 mistakes, you couldn't erase them.
Nope.
That whole thing got thrown out. And that's kind of how it was. Like if any kind of mistakes, they just threw the whole, you didn't throw away that section. You threw away the whole thing.
Yeah. And you also have to remember that the Hebrew people, the respect they had for the scripture. When the rabbis would bring...
We just talked about the Ark of the Covenant, which had
the
New Testament. Had the New Testament in it. Had the tablets.
Yeah, the 10 Commandments. When they would bring the
super weapon.
When they would bring the scripture to the front of wherever they were having service, the people would stand and they would watch it go down. They had this sort of awe and reverence because... Is
this when they didn't allow women in? Did women get to see this part, or was this only guys?
Probably only guys. Yeah. But some of these other books, they are still valued by the Hebrew people.
I mean, they sound like they're interesting.
Yeah. They were valued for teaching, but they weren't considered scripture.
Okay.
So like Enoch was considered valued. In fact, many people within throughout the Bible quote from the book of Enoch. It was valued as being something you could learn from, but it wasn't on the same level as... It had
authority, but it wasn't scripture.
Right.
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Where were we?
We were talking about Samael.
Okay,
they have a fight.
Let's kind of move it along here. So they have a fight scene. It's a really long. It's a lot longer.
It was longer than I remember it. Yeah.
They fight in the museum, then they go outside the museum. They fight through a carnival. They fight through some cars. The whole time, John's just trying to keep up.
Tunnels.
They go down to the subway tunnels. Huge fight scene in the subway tunnels.
They had
through
one
the
scene.
Subway tunnels and to the subway lobby meeting platform. With kittens.
Yeah, well, but there's something you pointed out that I was like, oh yeah. So, and there's one point that Samuel, punches him or something, and he falls down this chute. And they fall for a while.
Ever. They're falling and falling and falling, and then they end up falling into a subway platform.
Yeah.
subways aren't that deep, yo.
No,
That was so deep. They were already deep.
Yeah.
They just fought on the train tracks, didn't they?
Yeah.
So they fought on the train tracks.
Yep.
And then they fell down a shaft.
Yep.
And they fell and they fell and they fell, and it was like reminiscent of Gandalf fighting the Balrog, right?
Yeah.
But like ghetto version, you know, because it's funny. And then they end up in this platform, and I look at John Mark, I'm like, where are they? Did they fall to China and they're on a Chinese platform? Like they fell so deep.
As ridiculous as that is, though, this scene does give me my favorite line in the whole movie.
What?
Because he's fighting, and he just can't take this down. So the way he decides to kill this guy is Hellboy grabs, with his stone fist, by the way, grabs the electrified
Maybe
rail.
this wasn't the same scene. He fought. When they fell to the railing, that was later on when they were hunting down the eggs. Wasn't it?
No. This was the first time they killed Samael. And they fight. Like I said, it goes on for a while, and he grabs with his stone fist the electrified rail, and he
happens later.
No, it happens. It all happened. I know that it seems like it should happen in two different scenes. This all happened in the same fight.
Well, the only reason I'm saying this is because remember he got separated out from Clay and them later on, and then he fell through shafts, and then they ended up on a platform. So I feel like these are two different fight scenes that were merged together because they were so similar.
No, these were.
I'm 90% sure I'm right.
Okay.
I can't look this up. It'd be a lot harder. So,
anyways,
just assume I'm right.
So he grabs the electrified rail. He grabs the Samael.
He grabs the railing with his giant hunkin'
stone hand, and he electrifies him to a point where he blows up, and he gets up and he says, "I'm fireproof. You're not."
I'm fireproof. You're not. And then he lights a cigar with his burning
hand. Which is funny
because the scene 5 seconds beforehand when he was under the train.
Yeah, because his horns
get hit so much they're hot burning, and he reaches up and touches them and goes, "Ow!"
Yeah.
I'm like, but you're fireproof. Why did that hurt you?
It's so great.
Nothing like watching a movie you haven't watched in 10 years.
Anyways.
I'm saying we're dogging on it, but we still like it. Okay?
They find out that...
Watch the second.
Yeah. They find out that Samael also, because at one point in a fight, he sticks his tongue out.
Oh, yeah.
He puts this stinger thing on there.
He does it's like
the alien thing.
It's definitely not part of their cycle. So
because
they lay eggs.
Yeah, they lay eggs, I guess.
Anyway,
they laid eggs in his arm, and so they're taking the eggs out, and it's basically another exposition.
When they talk about Liz sometime in here, there's a girl that does fire. We're not going to touch on her too much.
Yeah, because that is a whole subplot, and it's an important subplot, but
it's not a lot of religious aspects.
Well, it's not just that. It's
also Hellboy being a creeper.
Yeah, that
Hellboy's being a big creeper.
Super creepy. That was one of the.
She's literally trying to help herself, and he keeps bugging her.
Yeah, that whole subplot was one of those. Well. Yeah, one of those things where I'm like, no.
Yeah. No. Girl said no, leave her alone.
Yeah. She even says that. She's like, if you care about me, leave me alone.
Don't come back. Because she does care, but she's trying to help herself. She's got problems, and she's in an institution, and she's trying to help herse.
So anyway,
we're not going to talk about the subplot that we just talked about.
Yeah. So they by them taking the eggs out, they know that this thing apparently lays eggs. It's a demon hound, but it lays eggs, so sure, whatever.
It's very amphibian.
Yeah, and so they're like, well, we gotta go down to the...
its roars are like raptors.
Yes.
It's creepy.
Which you know how they make the raptor sound, right?
It's changed up pig noise screams.
Yeah. So they have to go down to the sewers, and so they do. They go down, and they're gonna clean out the eggs.
Looks for the eggs and the grossest water in existence. He's a fish man. They put him in this green water, and I'm like, you couldn't. I don't care if I was a fish man. There is no amount of money you could pay me to swim in that water. I'm like, Abe, you're dying. Your lungs are your gills are just. Fish can't live in that.
Yeah, no.
Maybe some carp, because carp are resilient, but you're not a carp, dude. It's gross. And he finds the eggs, and then he finds more of the things, because Samael has been given the blessing from Rasputin because Rasputin's back. By the way, they got Rasputin back in here somewhere. It's a whole ritual. It took 2 seconds. Suddenly he's back. He has no eyes.
All they needed
also,
is...
because God lives inside him.
Yeah.
But not like us.
Yeah, it's
literally
like a physical.
Like it's a physical tentacles inside him.
Yeah, all it took is the blood of one Sherpa to fill up the
that was so much tomato sauce.
That poor actor too, because he was like, when he came up out of it, he's
like
just
tomato
covered,
sauce.
and I'm like,
I hope he liked tomato sauce. He didn't after that though.
I'm sure.
Anyway, it's a good scene. It's just funny to watch and think about it.
He
keep defending this movie as I dog on it.
And Hellboy does give him a reliquary.
Yeah, and it does work.
Yeah, it does. Okay, but here's the thing. It's basically the pinky bone of a saint.
Yeah, which is rude.
Right, rude, one.
Rude.
Two, it's going back to this idea that these people and things have mystical powers.
Well, okay, but that's very Hellboy.
Yeah.
In the Hellboy universe, things have power. We've already established that by the way Abe can touch things.
Yes, this is true.
These things retain the power that they were blessed by, from Rasputin giving things power to God giving things power to elder gods.
I'm just saying.
So yeah, does harken back to the idea of, what is it called? When you had to like do certain acts and pay money, and the Catholic Church did it for a while. They would have you had to pay money to see certain artifacts and be able to pray and touch them that were like old saint stuff.
Oh, I can't remember
anyway,
what that's called. I wanted to say indulgences, but that's
it
not
had
right.
the pinky in it, basically, and he had it around his wrist, and it did compel them until he accidentally broke it off.
Yeah, and then he got attacked.
So it worked.
Yep.
And it's also establishing that there is power in the, I guess, God and Christianity in this world. It's kind of wonky because Professor Broom is obviously a practicing Catholic. He has rose beads. Rose beads. I don't know why I can't remember the word rosary. My brain just can't. But he also used tarot cards earlier. Here's
the thing about that, though. That scene where he was doing that, that the only reason I even knew about that scene is because you own the extended cut. That scene's not in the regular cut.
Cut's the only way to watch those movies. It fills in so many holes.
It does. I'm just saying, I never saw that scene when I first saw it.
Because he's basically dying.
Yeah.
He has old guy movie disease.
He has
a real disease. They do say
he has very aggressive cancer.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's like sitting there using the cards, and he gets the death card. And then I sat there and explained how tarot cards. I've had so many people come to me and try to explain to me how tarot cards work and how they're not this bad stuff, that I know how they work. I won't touch them, but I know how they work.
Well, within
I don't.
This is a little of a tangent. So the reason why in the Christian faith we don't
touch prediction,
touch tarot cards or thing like that is because there's specific verses in the Bible that talk about not performing divinations.
Yes.
Looking into the future. And a lot of that has to do with as physical people, we are supposed
God literally says, I know. You don't need to know, I know.
Right. And we're also designed to live and flow with time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just our nature. Because when we look into the future like that, like just like anytime you add, like if you want
in the end time guys too. Like
anytime you want to just absolutely take any series to whack town, add time travel. It just jacks everything up.
I hate time travel. I hate time
it's
travel
the same
stuff
kind of thing with...
But this has nothing to do with my Christian faith. I just don't like watching it. It confuses me.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing with divination. Is like when you look into the future like that, one, it's you taking a power that you're not really supposed to have. Mm-hmm. And it's also like, it's just not... It causes more problems than it solves. I
personally don't believe it works. I don't believe in tarot cards working. I personally don't believe. I think, if anything, I think they're pretty. Yeah. I think the art's very pretty. I think they're interesting storytelling mechanic.
Yeah.
I do believe, but they are connected to things that we as Christians don't condone. Like certain other religions.
We don't practice, yeah.
Yeah, we don't practice. We don't.
Yeah. So
anyway, but
rant over.
Well, it's not a rant. It's just our thoughts.
Because diversion over.
There's pendulums and things like that.
Yeah.
It's just not a part of our faith.
Yeah.
So they find the eggs, people die, Clay gets stabbed a billion times.
Well, because Clay and Hellboy found the
hideout.
The knifey man's
hideout.
Carl's.
No, it was all their hideout for a while, because remember.
Yeah,
so they find it, and then Carl with knives, kills Clay. Well, he stabs Clay a lot, and they basically have one-off line that says, we don't know if he'll survive the night. Yeah. And then we never find out if he survived the night, but he's not in the second movie, so I guess he didn't.
And part of this whole convoluted
which made me
plan,
mad because I liked it.
part of this whole convoluted plan. So he stabs Carl, and then he
fakes his death.
Kills himself, kind of.
Yeah, he's got the clockwork inwards, and he's just full of dust. So he basically turns his clockwork down to really, really slow, so that he appears to be dead,
or even off. Like he's undead.
Yeah, he is undead.
So they think he's dead, and Carl's dead.
They take him back for
study,
and Hellboy gets yelled at.
Before he does the whole "I'm gonna fake my death," he takes out a couple pieces of paper, and this is why this is the most convoluted plan of all. Rather than saying we're going to this place, he goes and he stabs them, but he has these 2 scraps of paper on him that have an address, kind of. And that's how they're
location about Rasputin's burial place.
That's how they're going to lure Hellboy down there.
Well, the last clue is to kill Broom.
I know it's still a convoluted. Whatever.
You know how Broom dies in the comics?
Huh?
He gets killed by an old god frog.
Oh, well.
In Antarctica.
Okay, that's
by
fine.
Rasputin.
Oh, of course. Well, he's still.
Well, Rasputin is the main bad guy for a long time for Hellboy. Rasputin is behind a lot of Hellboy's existence. It's pretty accurate, actually.
So they take Carl back. Hellboy gets yelled at.
Then there's a Liz subplot.
There's a Liz subplot stuff.
She comes back.
And then all of a sudden...
He thinks John's trying to steal Liz. Oh yeah, John's been here the whole time. See how irrelevant he is?
Yeah, right. There's like this, I don't even know if it's supposed to be...
Where Hellboy thinks John's trying to date Liz.
Yeah.
And all John's trying to do is help Liz understand that she can come back and that he can help her adjust, and that because she does have feelings for Hellboy, and Hellboy has feelings for her.
But they're creepy. Although there is that cute scene with the kid, like when he's spying on him. There's like
they're
a kid
pretty
up
cute. The kid's giving like this solid advice. He's like, "You're not."
Yeah, like why am I listening to you? You're not.
You're not. And then Broom's dead.
Well, okay. Well, first what happens is we find out what Carl looks like, and yikes.
He's cut his lips off. He's cut his eyelids off.
He's got scars all over. He's
masochistic.
He's got they call it surgical addiction or something.
And then he gets up.
Yeah, he gets up because he's not dead.
He said Rasputin brought him back.
Oh.
He did die. Rasputin just used his powers to bring him back.
Bring him back, yeah.
And then they talk with Broom a little bit about the plan, and
you see what the
afterlife's going to look like. No, the Armageddon.
Armageddon, yeah.
You see, and that's a cool shot because there's like literal Cthulhu tentacles coming down from the sky, and it looks really cool, and Hellboy with his horns not filed down and his crown of hell on his head. Which
when I first saw that, I did not know that those flames made a crown. I just thought they were flames.
His name literally means who wears the crown, like a crown of flames. His true name. Because in this universe, Hellboy, it's complicated because he's like Hellboy, but hell isn't necessarily like fire and brimstone hell, or even our version of hell, which we don't really have a great version. Like the Bible's very on hell, but this is like elder gods, other world existence, kind of Lovecraftian.
According to the wiki, and I don't know how accurate this is to the overall like what the creators of this universe were going for, but those tentacle monsters, the Agdra Jihad, whatever they're called, those were actually created by one of the fallen angels.
Oh, I mean, they are mentioned in the comics.
So
that makes sense.
Whatever.
So
anyway, so he's showing Broom, and then
they kill him.
To be fair though, they're not like,
there's this respect between Rasputin and Broom. Yeah. Like Broom is like, you're very evil and you're a terrible person, but he does respect that Rasputin has been very cordial.
Yeah.
Rasputin he remains very cordial through almost all of his discourse.
Yeah.
And then since Broom raised Hellboy and kept Hellboy alive, Rasputin's reward was first showing him what the end times will look like, and then giving him a quick death. And they give him right through the neck.
Yep, just one. It's not gruesome or anything.
You don't see it, which is nice. It's well shot. This whole movie's pretty well shot. Yeah.
So Hellboy comes back from being a creeper to find that his father's dead, and there's no talking through this whole sequence.
It's a very sad sequence.
And I think
he can't go to the funeral because he's big red dot guy. guy, so he has to watch the funeral from afar. There's music. It's very sad and somber.
Like, he can't even be a pallbearer for his own father.
Nope.
And I'm going to say...
why that's the sad thing about this universe compared to the comics, is he could have been.
Yeah. I'm going to say this, like, it's
called a private funeral.
Yeah. They did a really good job with that sequence, because, like I said, there's no talking. It's all imagery.
Yeah.
Anytime that a movie can
also,
say
Del
a
Toro's
lot...
so good with color theory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anytime a movie can say so much without saying a single word, I'm always going to applaud.
Yeah, it's very good. So they get the notes and they put the clues together and they go to Russia and they find the burial spot. I'm just gonna this stuff's kind of rapid here. So they find the spot. Hellboy's like, I'm gonna ask for directions. And this is from the comics.
This is so weird.
It's from the comics. That's why it's in there.
I know.
He gets a
corpse.
A corpse that was like a criminal because he had been hung.
Yeah.
And the corpse gives him directions. Like, he carries it on his back, and the corpse is just a jerk the whole time. It's hilarious. Yeah. And they break into this trap riddled mausoleum.
It's his mausoleum. But I want to know how much money Rasputin must have had when he was alive.
You saw him paying people.
That's true.
And she's had a long time to get everything ready.
Yeah, because this is like...
Elsa has been alive since his death.
This is a massive complex.
Oh, yeah, it's like all underground. They end up separating a whole bunch of people out. There's some really cool fight/combat scenes that kill all of the Samaels in their nesting ground. They blow them up.
Yeah, because
Liz goes...
Liz
she's pyro. She's got fire powers.
Liz basically goes supernova. Hellboy and the FBI guy have a moment.
Oh, the leader guy who was like, I hate you, Hellboy, you're abomination. Yeah. Then they kind of had a moment of understanding.
And they took that moment with the second movie and they're like, nah.
Yeah, well, basically they came to an understanding of each other after killing Carl. For real this time. And they're like, okay, you're not so bad to each other. And as you said, the second movie came in, and they're like, this character development for this guy, it's out of here.
Yeah, no, we don't.
It's out of here.
Because that tension was funny.
I think the idea, the pressure got to him. Because he became in charge.
Yeah.
But it's still. So they go, and then Liz goes, pew, everyone passes out. They wake up, and Hellboy's in
well, he's in stockades.
He's in stockades that are designed to hold him because they have his true name on them. And then, for some reason, they kept John alive.
Yeah, why didn't they just kill him?
They wanted a witness.
Again, like he's...
I know, if they had killed John, their plan would have gone off fine.
Anyway,
so John's, there for his single purpose in the whole movie. And they kept him alive. They kept the other grenades. They were given the super cool grenades that were meant to kill the
Samaels, yeah.
Samaels. And then Rasputin's like, if you don't open the door, I will take this girl's soul. And for some reason, Liz is naked, and they have a blanket over her. I don't know. She's naked now. She didn't. By the way, her fire does not burn her clothing off. So they stripped her for some, I guess, sacrifice. Yeah. You gotta be naked for sacrifice.
You do.
It's in the rules.
It's in the rules.
Cult sacrifices.
Here's something that I thought was kind of interesting about how, because he takes her soul. I guess.
He sucks it out. He goes.
But yeah, and
he soul slurps her.
Yeah, he does soul slurp her. That's from our other podcast. But he does it out of her mouth.
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting because it's like
because God breathed.
Yeah, because it's the ruha.
Yeah,
that was
sense.
breathed in, so he took it out through her mouth. Because literally, it
makes sense because Rasputin is a fallen priest.
Yeah,
he was an Orthodox priest who did fall a little bit into some other beliefs.
Yep.
The thing about Rasputin that's really interesting, the more research I've done on him, I had this book on him. It was called The Most Evil People in History. And it slammed Rasputin. He did orgies, he debauchery, he married a woman, he left her with 1 million children, he believed the way to get rid of sin was to sin a lot. Like, he had all this stuff. And then the more I've read, the more I'm learning that he looked into this stuff.
Yeah.
And he was crazy, guys. He was a crazy mystic, okay? Definitely was crazy. But all this stuff we have in Rasputin, you have to take with a grain of salt because there was such a campaign against the Romanovs and him that people just said a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of slander. There's a lot of things. I'm not saying Rasputin wasn't a bad person. I believe there was definite, maybe even demonic things connected to him. He had issues. He was probably illiterate, which has nothing to do with being demonic, but he bluffed his way through a lot of stuff. He was very charismatic.
Yeah.
Women did flock to him.
Yep.
And you look at him and you're like, okay. He had, like, because there's this talk about having food in his beard.
Yeah.
Rotting. And women were like, man, that's, like, he apparently had a nice smell. Like, there was something wrong with Rasputin.
Yeah.
Definitely something going on. But it may not have been what was claimed to be. The way he died was actually how they killed him.
Yeah.
What is it? They hung him, they castrated him, they shot him.
They poisoned him.
Clubbed him. They clubbed him, and then finally they drowned him. Yeah. So they didn't die, apparently, very easily. I'm assuming.
Double tap,
and that's the only reason I think, because sometimes we've seen religious people do really crazy things to people to kill them until they're dead. Yeah. Rasputin might have died early on in that, and they just kept doing stuff to his body.
Yeah.
But maybe there was something demonic going on and he was hard to kill. We don't know.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is anything you read about Rasputin's beliefs, take with a grain of salt unless it actually comes from some sort of historic thing that is trying to take out the mysticism.
No, forget that. I'm going to get all of my information that I know about Rasputin from the Anastasia movie. Rasputin was a lich.
He was a lich.
And
he had a phylactery.
He had a familiar, which was a talking, wisecracking, Canadian talking.
Kicked her, sir.
Canadian talking bat.
Oh man. Let's make a Disney movie, like movies said.
Yeah.
Don Bluth. Who should we use? Let's use the really sad story of this Romanov missing princess, who is dead, by the way. They found her bones. It was in a well. Like, that's not depressing at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Rasputin's like, you open the door, let my god in, and
Hellboy,
you can get her soul back. And he's like, fine for her, and he does it.
Yeah. Well,
he says his true name.
He says his true name, and his horns
He
grow.
gets really cool BA horns.
Yeah, and
he opens the door, and
he opens the first lock.
Yes.
There's 2 locks. So he opens the first lock, and that starts the tentacles.
The portals start coming in,
and the tentacles start coming down. And John does the one thing he's supposed to do in this movie. He grabs his Hellboy's father's rosary, and he's like, "Remember who you are," and chucks it at him.
Yeah, and
Good
the
job,
rosary
John.
burns his hand because he was like full demonic mode. Yeah. So like that holy symbol burns his hand. And Hellboy is like, "Oh yeah, I can make choices."
Yeah.
And this is like, Hellboy's very much about free will.
Yeah.
Hellboy, no matter how much everyone has told him he is destined for this, he will always remember that Hellboy was actually raised Catholic in the comics.
Yeah.
So he breaks his horns, he makes the choice to renounce his birthright, and he kicks everyone's butts. Elsa gets killed by everyone, they kill everybody, they run away, and then the god inside Rasputin's like, screw this, I'll go through my prophet. So he uses the prophet, because he stabbed Rasputin and killed him, and Rasputin established every time he dies, when he comes back, he gets to come back, and he brings more of his god with him.
Yep.
So that was enough to bring Cthulhu thing through.
Now, something that's back it up just a little bit is that's interesting that Elsa, the German chick, says, and you hear anytime you have one of these doomsday cult things doing their, like, we will destroy the world, and from its ashes we will create a new Eden.
Yeah.
What's kind of interesting about that is, we talked about a little bit about in other episodes, the periods of time when the Israelites were no longer following God. Yes. They were doing their own thing, and they started following other gods.
Every man did what he thought was right.
Yeah.
End of Judges, I think.
And in a lot of those stories, they talk about these things. They're translated kind of different ways. That the actual Hebrew word I am not going to attempt to say, but it translates roughly to tree of luxury. And these. So a lot of this information. Before I get started, I'm going to cite my source. This is another one from Tom and John out at the Bible Project. I recommend any of you guys that want to really do like an unnecessarily deep dive into scripture, go listen to them. Like, they go so deep. So these trees of luxury, they basically were what we would know as Asherin poles. Like, those things that they put up, like for Maydays and stuff.
Oh, like the ribbons?
Yeah.
The pagan poles?
Yeah. And they would also
fertility pools.
Yeah, they would also like plant these gardens around, and these were what the Bible calls the temples on high places. Usually talking about to other gods.
That's actually pretty common. The Greeks always built temples up high.
Always on high places. What's interesting about it is this term, tree of luxury, or the word. When you look at the Hebrew for tree of Eden and this tree of luxury, they use both of those words in Hebrew use a lot of the same characters. And just like kind of how in English, like the D and the B are just the same shaped symbol, just backwards.
Yeah.
Hebrew has that too. So it has basically the same word, the same letters, but they're all scrambled up and backwards. Basically denoting, the authors are denoting that these are false Edens. So what you have is people that they don't want to follow God's rules. They want to do things on their own terms. So rather than go to the temple, which was supposed to be this place where heaven and earth met, sort of a recreation of Eden where that happened. They're like, we can find our own way, and they would make these false Edens where they could rule themselves rather than relying on God. And so anytime I hear like these doomsday cults saying, we will create a new Eden, that's basically what they're saying. They're rejecting, because that's what sin is. It's us saying, no, I don't want to do things in the way that you've designed me to do things, God. I want to do things on my own. It's like when Rowan's like, no, I want to do it myself. Yeah. And you're like, but you can't. Like, you don't have the dexterity.
You're 4 years old. Yeah, you can't do this thing. You're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you let him do it.
Yeah, and you're
like, well, see,
and then he hurts himself. And then he hurts himself.
You're hugging him, comforting him. I told you so. I mean, you're loving them still.
Yeah,
but you're still going.
I know. It's just like, it's how we operate sometimes, because we balk at the idea of somebody telling us what to do, even though there are people.
That's really interesting. I didn't know all that. That's cool.
So anyways, back to the movie. The Cthulhu Squid comes out.
Yeah, and they run off first, and he hands Liz's body to John. It's like, keep her safe. I'm going to go deal with that. And he takes the row of grenades. And then the tentacle grabs him and yoinks him back. And then there's this interesting little fight scene between, it's called Tentacle Hot Potato.
Yep.
Where he's just kind of jumbling.
He does grab one of the like
stone swords,
which I'm pretty sure
would break. It's fine. It's
whatever.
The power of belief.
Yeah.
And then eventually he's like, I'll just let it eat me.
And because he pulls the
cord, lets it eat him. He survives because he's fireproof.
Yep.
I think being fireproof and being explosion proof are two different things.
They are absolutely, because it's not the heat of the explosion that usually. It's a pressure wave, but
that's okay.
Don't worry about that.
Hellboy is invincible.
Yep.
And then he goes back and he picks up Liz's body and he goes and whispers in the ear and he's like, hey, you own the other side. Let her go, because I'll come after her, and if I do, you'll be sorry. And he basically threatens Satan. And it works. Satan's like, oh, you're gonna have this back. I don't know if it's Satan. It's whatever. They kind of established that the afterlife is the multitude of... It's another one of those universes where everything's real.
Yeah, which doesn't work, but sure, whatever.
It's fine. It's fine. And so Liz comes back, and then they kiss, and she's so into it that she bursts into flames. But he's fireproof, so they're perfect for each other. Yep. And John's like, good job! And then it abruptly ends there. Yep. And they're like, we're out of money. Roll the credits. Just like in
Monty Python
and the Holy Grail. We're out of money. Roll end it now. That's not what happened. Probably.
No, it is. It literally is.
I know what's what happened in that, but I meant in Hellboy. Yeah. I don't know. It just felt very abrupt. They did it kind of like a recap of like things are different now. Yeah, no. I'm helping Hellboy. And Liz and Hellboy have moved in together, and all of this stuff. And Abe is Abe. Nope, it's like, goodbye.
Yep.
We've done it. We saved the world. So, anyway, free will is, I think, probably the theme of the movie when you really think about it.
It really is, I think.
Hellboy's constantly being restrained. He's being told where he can go, what he can do, by everybody. Well, by fate, by destiny, by the humans around him, even his father a little bit.
I was going to say, even his birth, because that the stone fist, it's the right hand of doom. It's like this magical artifact.
His name literally means he who wears the fire crown. Yeah. He's meant, in the comics, he is destined to kill Satan and take over hell and rule hell.
Yeah.
That is what his destiny is.
And in the movie universe, he is destined to bring about the apocalypse to the end of the world.
In the comics, apparently him and Hecate merge at the end of the comics, and after the apocalypse starts.
Yeah.
And to stop it and to humanity almost gets wiped out, they merge together, become a new thing, and restart the Earth. I didn't know that. I was reading through it, and I went, I've been reading the comics for years, but I've never been able to finish the comics.
Look.
And so I went, because Hellboy does die in the comics, and he goes to hell when there's this interesting series with him meeting his uncles and his distant family and what happens to his father.
Yeah.
And then he gets resurrected somehow later on. Anyway, so Hellboy has this constant being told who he can be and what he can be.
Yeah.
He's being told by the FBI that he's a monster.
Yeah.
And that he's only a tool.
Yeah.
His father this is his son. His father controls him, but not out of act of, I want to control you. It's because he wants to protect his son. I
don't know if it's no much control. It's more of he wants to, because Hellboy, by his very nature,
he's a teenager.
He's part human, but he's part human, but he's also part demon. And by his nature, they don't ever
explore that in the movie. So as far as we know, he's full demon.
Yeah. In the movie, like by his very nature, he's going to be looked at as a monster. But I think his father wanted to give him the choice to make up who he was. He didn't want him to fall to just being a demon. I've got to be evil because I'm a demon.
As parents, we do control our children.
We do.
There is an aspect of control, and it's not like we want to control them. Right. It's that we want what's best for them, and as children, they don't always know what is best for themselves. They have that very much. I want it now.
It's also their scope of the world is very limited. Just like our scope of the world is very limited.
Broom understood a lot more, but also Broom held secrets. He didn't tell Hellboy he was dying. He didn't, there was definitely problems between Hellboy and Broom. There was a disconnect because Hellboy was technically an adult man. They said he was just out of his 20s, or just into his 20s, late 20s.
Yeah.
Like, he aged slower.
Yeah.
So he has
this thing with Liz.
So he has that. He has that thing with Liz, which is weird because he was an adult when Liz came. I guess his mind wasn't an adult then.
Yeah.
But because Liz came as a child, she was like 12 years old when she came to the Institute, and Hellboy grew quickly, so it's kind of weird that they had a thing. But at the same time, it's not because they didn't really have a thing. He liked her, but that's about as far as it got. I think. Anyway, so he's being controlled by the Institute. He's being told what to do by his father, at least in his eyes. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but in his eyes.
I think there is some what to do.
And then there's this destiny.
Yeah.
So, who are you, Hellboy? Are you going to be what the FBI thinks you are, a monster? Are you going to be what these dark forces want you to be, a Hellbringer? Are you going to be what your father saw, a son, a loved son? Because that's a line he says. Who, you want to know his true name? Rasputin tells Broom, and Broom goes, I know his name. I know what I call him. I call him son.
Yep.
And I think, honestly, Broom, I was so powerful by Broom because it's like in our lives when we feel like we have to perform a certain way and do certain things and to fit in society, even when society is doing some pretty awful things.
Yeah.
God looks at us and he calls you son. He calls me daughter, even when I am making mistakes and punching my way out of my cell to go spy on the girl I like, or throwing things at the FBI director, opening the gates of hell. You until you stand before God, you have a choice.
Yeah.
So I think that's the important and free will is such an interesting concept right now because there was this weird push, especially on the internet. They were trying to give the devil the credit for giving us free will. Oh. And they're like, oh man, it was that good guy Satan meme. I hated that meme.
Oh.
Hated that meme. I was so riled up. There was nothing nowhere to argue about it. And if I did, it's the internet. What's the point?
Yeah.
But man, I hated that meme. I'm like, no, because God literally gave us free will because he wanted us us to have the choice.
God
desired something, a relationship with something that would desire a relationship with him.
Not just that, but when God created humanity, he created us and he gave us free will, and then he said, what I want you to do is I want you to rule with me.
Yeah.
He was like God is still, God's still the one in charge, but he wanted to rule, wanted us to rule the world with him by his plan.
That's why we're his sons and daughters and not slaves.
It was always God that gave us free will. He created us with free will.
He put the tree in the garden. Not Samael.
Yeah.
He put the options out there. Did he want us to take those options? Of course not. But it's not fair to us to not give us the option. It's not right because he wanted us to be able to choose.
The thing that always gets people about free will is free will.
It works a two-way street.
It's a two-way street, and it also free will also denotes responsibility.
Yeah.
You have a choice, but you also have the responsibility and the consequences, because every choice that you make has consequences.
In this life, you'll have consequences in the next life. I think people are bugged by that when people are on their deathbed, renounce the wrongs they did.
Yeah.
Because they think they're going to get away without having consequences.
Yeah, I think...
I think in the end...
We don't know.
It comes out in the wash.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, God will figure that out. It's not for us to decide.
It really isn't.
Especially when they can go down in history still for being... Hitler could have been on his deathbed and renounced and all of that. But in history, look how we remember him, mostly.
No, we're not going to get into that.
So... I don't know. I like movies with Nazis are very interesting. Movies with free will is kind of addressing free will. I mean, you don't watch Hellboy and think this is a movie about free will.
No.
But if you want to dig into it, the whole story of Hellboy is about free will.
Yeah. Both the movie and the comics. Yeah.
Even when he does technically fulfill his destiny in the comics, he goes, no, this is not how it will be. I will use the power I've gained, because he did gain power in hell because he accidentally did kill Satan. It was an accident. He took that power that he got with the power of Hecate, and this is like an elder god or a witch, because Hellboy was born from a witch in the comics, who tried to renounce on her deathbed, and then his dad killed her because she was renouncing, and he didn't want to lose his son. Yeah. So it's complicated. And he said, no, I'm not going to let the world end this way, so we will use our powers combined, become Captain Planet, and save everybody. They didn't save everybody, but they did create a new world, which kind of you know what it makes me think of? Devil Crybaby. Anyway, that
do we have to do that
someday?
One? It's Nihilism, the anime.
Yeah, it was just funny because the creator of that is a very joyful person. But,
Jeez Louise.
Nihilism, the anime, and then what else was I was just thinking about Escaflowne too.
That was that's a weird one.
Well, it has tarot cards. It talks about fate and then how it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's all I have.
I think that's all I got.
I just think you guys really should. I think my message here is the power of free will. It's like the human superpower.
Yeah.
And just like in comic books of heroes, superpowers can be used for good or for bad and have major consequences, which are good and bad, that ripple through our world. Thank you for listening to Faithful Nerds, and thank you to my dad, Steve Rue, for letting us use his jazz album opening song from the intro of it's just called the Jazz Album. Please check out Steve Rue and his fantastic piano and musical talent. He has it's Steve Rue on YouTube.
Thank you all for listening. If you like what you hear, please consider leaving us a review. It really does help us out, the channel growing. But more than that, we would actually really love to hear your thoughts and opinions and whatever you have to think about. You can email us at faithfillednerds with any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions.
faithfulnerds@gmail.com.
Yes. And if we get enough questions, I think we could maybe do a Q&A episode sometime.
Yeah, and polls. I would like to do polls sometime.
Yep.
We are an opinion podcast, and while we do our research, we encourage our listeners to take a look at the facts themselves, explore their faith, and always remember that God loves you. And now for our out-of-context Bible verse. Genesis 1, verse 3. And God said, let there be light, and there was light.
I'm John Mark.
And I'm Michelle.
And in the words of the immortal Wolfwood, go with God.